Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Ryan, and I'm joined with my co-host Connor. Welcome back to another episode of Voices from Corners Unknown. This is our 15th episode, or I guess close to 15th hour of recording, and on this episode, we've got 3 albums to discuss. I believe, if you can check me on this, but we basically have 2 noise rock albums, and they're quite disparate in their sounds, or how they compare sonically. And then we also have this really interesting amalgamation of like a dark ambient post folk industrial power electronic-esque album. It's pretty difficult to categorize, but yeah, so we got a couple noise rock albums and the dark ambient flavored one. It seems like we're kind of starting a trend here, at least after we talked about intercourse. I've been getting a little more entrenched in the noise rock stuff, frankly. Kind of getting into
Same.
it. But yeah, where do you wanna start? We got I guess I should probably do my due diligence and actually say the album names. We've got GRIZZLOR, 5 Wasted Years. We've got Necromishka and their album The Space Between Us. And then we have the brand new album By the Grace of Blood and Guts from HAAN.
Yeah.
So yeah, where do you wanna start the conversation, man?
Let's start with By the Grace of Blood and Guts by Han.
All right, go straight into it, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this, well, I guess, yeah. What'd you get for background on these guys?
Well, Han come from New York, and pretty sure the label is Aqua Lamb Records.
Right.
God,
right.
Aqua Lamb. Just Aqua Lamb, but
Right.
yeah, they're originally founded as a quintet. Dude, I can't talk already. But
Yeah, quintet.
they originally founded
Yes.
as No Way in 2012.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure it was like a different lineup back then. But
Right.
yeah. They were pretty damn good. I don't know if you have anything else to say about their background.
Oh, just on the background. Yeah. So these guys are currently existing. They're a quartet. And they're in the vein of noise rock. They got some little psyche element, some psych elements tossed in there, I believe. And this album just came out when we're recording this on August 12th, and this album came out August 10th. So it's just a couple days. It's a couple days fresh, but we've been able to listen to it for a few weeks leading into the release of it. But yeah, this is their quote unquote debut full length, their debut LP. They had one EP titled Sing Praises, which dropped in May of 2014. I believe that was about 4 tracks in length, or it was an EP, so it wasn't very long. And this is their debut LP. I believe it is 8 tracks in length. Yeah. So, what'd you think about this one?
It was pretty cool. I love the vocals. They're pretty powerful, and they even described it themselves. It kind of sounds like Neil Fallon or Clutch, and
Right.
that's always been one of my favorite bands throughout the years.
Definitely. He doesn't have I wouldn't say he has much of kind of like that tough guy. Like he has like that really gruff voice, but whenever the dude from Clutch is singing, he almost sings it in kind of like this really like assured way. I don't know. He kind of has like this attitude about the way he sings.
Yeah,
I don't know
I
if
can
you
see
get
that.
that. Like he just kind of has like this macho flavor
Uh-huh.
to it. But yeah,
This guy's was it Chuck Barrett?
yeah, that's it.
He's much more, I don't know, laid back with it. I think the content's more
right.
like sad usually too, or
Yeah, I wish I got the vinyl a bit earlier so I could have read through the lyrics. I wasn't able to find lyrics directly.
Oh, dude, that
available
would have helped
on
quite a
the
bit.
Bandcamp. I know. I wish I had all the words out there in front of me, just because there was a couple little bits or a couple little phrases, and I was like, oh, what the hell did he say there? It sounded interesting, but I wasn't able to fully get it cohesive in my mind despite listening to it, dozens of times. But yeah, I guess we could dig a bit into the music. What is there I guess initial impressions, like some of the stuff that kind of hits you right out the gate while listening to this that really stuck with you?
Well, of course, with the opening track, Thy Tongues,
Yeah.
was like, I don't know, my first taste of this band, and I
Right.
instantly, the vocals, of course, stood out to me and
Yes.
caught my attention. And then they have these really kind of sludgy and just dirty instrumentals throughout the whole album.
Right. Yeah, what I like about the instruments too, and this isn't me trying to say like this isn't a negative, but I kind of like the riffs in how they almost seem pretty straightforward in a sense. They kind of they really lock into these sometimes these grooves. And Thy Tongues, the opening track, it just has like this chunkiness to it, and it's not like, I don't want to say it's not technical, but there's something just so like there's just this essence about it that's just so heavy. And I think the simplicity in some cases are kind of the way they boil it down to just these really pure riffs.
And those riffs, they would stay with me.
Right. Yeah, no, I've been walking around and just doing this, that, and the next thing throughout my days, and like sometimes I'll just think of like a certain riff or a certain moment, especially the closing riff on Thy Tongues. Like there's like that little 30-second bit right before it closes when the riff just really, or like they bring in a new riff and it just is super intense, and it just gets really sludgy for a hot sec before kind of peeling back.
Yeah.
And kind of in traditional noise rock fashion, or I guess I shouldn't be saying that because I'm still pretty inept when it comes to my understanding of noise rock. But they also kind of splotch it with those little chirps of feedback. They kind of splotch, that like it kind of keeps it a little more. It makes it a little more abrasive in addition to the production of the guitars and like the punch of the drums. But yeah, I really like Chuck's vocals, and this is a really good way to kind of I think this is a great opener track. I feel like there are a handful of albums we've spoken about where sometimes the opening track is just a standard opening track. It kind of just gets you into it, but this is like really gives you full scope of what to expect for the rest of the record.
Agreed.
Yeah, what you got? Another
this is
track you want to
another one of those albums where like each song just had their own thing to it, just be it a little bit or like a lot, and I don't know, each one kind of caught me in different ways, but
yeah, do you want to go into another one specifically? We don't have to go into if we went into each one,
this would be forever.
yeah, and sometimes the track by track, it doesn't necessarily warrant like the best insight into a record.
Nope.
It could, but I kind of like to try and synthesize it a bit.
Yeah, well, another one of my favorites was most definitely track 4, Zero Day, which is also the longest track on the album, I believe. Yes.
Right.
And yeah, that one starts off slow. And in my notes, I called it, instead of like chunky or like heavy, I went with chubby.
Yes.
So there's a little chubby intro. But yeah, and just like once again, there's like that, just the grooviness of these guitars.
Yes.
They just kind of like minger around the vocals, and the vocals, of course, come out all stern and powerful again. But this one, like, there's a lot of like build-ups, and more layers and layers come onto these guitars, and there's like these kind of windy guitar sweeps, and about like halfway through the instrumentals, like especially the guitars, kind of take the forefront.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember if I'm thinking of the exact passage, but yeah, there's like that really neat moment where it kind of slows down into like I kind of described in my notes, at least like there's like a pitter patter of drums, and it kind of like the guitars just start creating like these huge washes of feedback, and it's just kind of like ringing out, but like you just got like this nice little drum pattern going. And I think the bass is doing a little movement in there as well.
Yeah.
But I really like the way they kind of the structure as you were describing, and I really enjoy the opening riff. It has kind of like this lethargic, vicious crawl to it. Like it's slow, but it's really meaty. And then they have those shrieks of feedback, and it kind of creates like this really solid bedrock that the feedback and all the other instruments lie on top of. But I would say that that's probably my favorite track on the record. Yeah, I really enjoy that one.
Same. That one was really the one that, confirmed my interest in the band.
For sure. Yeah. Or well, were the first three songs, were they a bit more standard in a sense for you, or would you think of like the first three songs going into it? Like what was it about Zero Day that really solidified your intrigue?
Well, I would just say the first three are kind of, I would just say more standard for, I don't know, I guess what they are. And
sure,
they're just more straightforward, and they all have cool sounds. But then number 4 really added on those cool little things that in the last year or so we've been into, I've noticed. But
right, yeah. No, and as a more general insight, or kind of like a more general observation, what I found kind of neat about this record as well is, the first three tracks are, as Connor was describing, I don't like to use the word standard all the time, because it makes it feel like I'm just comparing it to everything else, and I don't have a well of knowledge of noise rock, so I don't want to completely, just sweep that under the rug. But like the first three tracks have a bit more speed behind them, and a little chunkier, a little riffier, a little heavier in that sense. And then there are a couple tracks in the middle. So Zero Day is the fourth track, and then The Woke is the fifth track, and that's a really slow one as well. But like they kind of do this nice job where they have some of the speedier tracks in the beginning, and then in the center of the album they put in a couple. I can't recall exactly how long The Woke is, but the songs kind of slow down and take more of a slow burn approach, and then near the end it kind of kicks up for a couple more songs, and the final track it kind of smolders out. I think it's paced. It's a very nicely paced record. It's not like all the bangers and then you close with a slow burn. It kind of gets a lot of energy out there and kind of hooks you, and then it goes into some of the slower crawls, and then right when you may be losing interest, I guess, if that, if you're not super into that, then it kind of kicks back, it kind of ups the ante again, and you get some more of those vicious riffs and those noise rock tracks. But are there other tracks, maybe the latter half? I really did like that one on The Woke, kind of the fifth track, also how it's super, like it takes a long while to get going. You just have like this little drumstick clapping on like the rim of the snare or whatever, and it just keeps going, and you're like, okay, when is the riff gonna start? And then it's just like this little da na 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 na, and then it just pulls back, and then it just kind of keeps it just takes forever to get going, and it kind of builds that anticipation. You're like, come on.
Yeah, it kind of gave me like garage vibes too, like a bunch of guys kind of practicing the garage.
Yeah, no, it definitely is a nice. I really enjoy that one. But
that was the one where I really started to notice the lyrics too, which I wish I knew exactly what they were saying. But there's like one line where he's like, "Now I see what I thought were wings are just barbed wire and chains."
Oh shit!
Yeah, I don't know what that's referring to, but I was like, "Oh, that sounds pretty cool."
Yeah, what I like in some of these songs, I don't know if you picked up on this either, but what I also enjoyed was in some parts, Chuck's vocals were so, like, just so boisterous, like they were just so, just heavy, and the way he just sings, I can't, I need to boost my vernacular when it comes to clean singing styles. But I really, like, in some parts it sounds like he was singing so loudly, like just at the highest end, like the vocals, like they started to fray a little bit, like it sounded like the equipment couldn't handle it, which I thought was fucking awesome. Like it almost sounded like the static it was starting to like just split because it was so loud. And I was like, oh, that's such a nice, subtle little thing to. I don't know how intentional that was, but I really enjoyed that bit. I kind of caught on to that in more iterative, future listens.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I gotta pay more attention to that next time. I definitely kind of noticed it, but I wanna.
Yeah, I mean, I could, then again, there are a lot of things I may be hearing that I like to think are really cool observations, and they may just not even exist.
They could all just be in our heads,
Right.
We're just going a little crazy day by day.
Right, it's very possible. But I do also, I think it's worth bringing up, some of the latter tracks as well, like Diminuendo. I really liked that one. Super chunky, hefty.
There's some cool bass in that one too.
Yes, yeah, and the drums, I don't know, the drums kind of kicked harder for me in that one. Maybe it was just the whole synergy going on in that track. What was it about the bass that you picked up on?
There's just these really nice groovy little lines that just kept repeating, and then they kind of changed here and there. But I don't know, it's just one of those things that kind of just makes your head bob, and you're like, this is pretty sick.
Right. Yeah, and I also like the I think the closing track is also a pretty nice one. It's just funeral song. Yeah, that one is. There's a cool moment when the guitars kind of start to air out and they kind of take on like a more psychedelic feel. And like they kind of seem to like bend out of shape a little bit, and the drum beat just kind of continues kind of navigating through these, this psyche atmosphere, and the way it kind of had this little headbanging moment before it closes out. I really enjoyed that track.
Yeah, that one was a good
overall.
One.
Yeah, some nice atmosphere going on in that one as well.
Yeah, definitely towards the end. But at the beginning, for some strange reason, I'm like, dude, it sounds like a 90s grunge song.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it just had this kind of like this guitar, like little waily thing where it's like, oh, it kind of sounds like a Nirvana song or some shit.
Interesting.
But
yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah. I think that overall I'm never good. I'm never great at being able to draw comparisons to a handful of bands. Clutch is kind of an obvious one, at least per the vocal.
The vocals also kind of made me think of Queens of the Stone Age. I don't know how familiar you are with them,
yeah.
But yeah.
Not. I mean, I'm not. There are so many bands that people give me crap for not knowing much about. Unfortunately,
I know.
And I'm always like, I don't have enough time in a day ever to be able to listen to all the stuff I need to know.
On the music video I worked on, like 4 days ago or 3 days ago, they had actually a big conversation about like, Queens of the Stone Age. I'm like, I know like 5 songs.
Right. Yeah, I think that you could. There are a handful of like comparisons you could probably make in certain, to certain aspects regarding their sound, but overall, it's a pretty powerful, vociferous record, I would say. And I'm glad that I believe it was Chuck that reached out to me, or at least sent this album along before it came out. So I appreciate him sending this along. This is a great record, and they also did a tour somewhat recently with Intercourse as well. I don't know if that's how they actually found out about us, but they did a little tour with Intercourse, a couple weeks ago, I believe.
That would have been a cool one to see.
Yeah. So there's all those little connections there, right? It's like we talked about Intercourse, and then here, it's just kind of it's kind of nice to keep this information moving around. But would you recommend folks check this one out or give it a listen?
Oh yeah, this was definitely one that I appreciated quite a bit.
For sure. All right. So which one do you want to go into next?
We might as well break up this noise rock and go with the Space Between Us by Necromishka.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Yes. Necromishka. Yeah, I think that is we are one for what 120 or some shit. I don't even know at this point, man.
Yes.
We're long. We'll never recover. But yes. So we can talk about this record. Do you have some background on these folks?
Yeah, they're from Israel, and it's there's 2 members, and they're a couple, right? Is that what?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes.
But yeah, they're like this crazy, like ritual ambient, power electronic, kind of folky,
industrial
Yeah, you
folk.
can just keep going.
Yeah, like broken folk almost. It's a really strange, and I can't, like, I want to call it experimental, but it's such a weird album,
Yeah.
and I kind of love it.
That's cool.
I kind of love it all the same for it. Yeah, and I learned of these folks. I was speaking with Tamar, and she is one of the members in the outfit, and she she turned me on to this record of hers, and yeah, it is quite it is quite a journey, and it's definitely one that I could not say I've heard in this vein of dark ambient. Like, this is definitely a very strange, in a good way, kind of release.
Yeah.
But would you think of this one overall? Like, I guess we could kind of go with, first impressions or some of the things that really stuck out to you about this.
Well, I would say the kind of folky acoustic guitars were really what stood out to me. And I mean, you instantly see that in the first track, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and like
Beast of Prey.
Yeah.
And
you just hear these really strange kind of like mumbly, I don't know, groans that kind of sound like they're singing.
Yeah. So the opening track, Beast of Prey. There's like this weird like pitch shifted vocalization going on. Like, it sounds super slow and turned down, and I wasn't able to, like, I always try and like find ways to connect it to the art, and I don't know exactly how this is playing off, but I found the artwork to be pretty interesting too.
Yeah.
How there's like this. Yeah, it's like this hand-drawn character kind of sitting in the corner of this room looking up, and there's this little bear that's like hanged itself by the letters of the yeah, but like, you just look at it, and I couldn't tell if they were trying to relate some of the vocals to this character at all, but it kind of had like this, almost like this blubbering, melancholic feel to it, kind of like this depressed feeling, and the way you describe the you get like this weird, it's almost like it's like folk, but it almost has like a rock riff in a way. Like this, it kind of has like this, a little bit of a rhythm to it, and it's just so strange. It's like you have this huge wash of ambience that just keeps hitting you, and it never seems to cease. And then somehow the guitar is like just barely creeping through. It's a really strange concatenation of sounds.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and then near the end of that one, it kind of, the rock-esque riff is kind of coming through, and then it seems to get kind of swallowed up by these shrieking veils of white noise ambience. Like, I don't know, I kind of thought of a lot of the ambient swells almost as like a white noise, just kind of like this unending static that's kind of always consuming you, always looking, always like omnipresent and just kind of observing you from a distance. It's kind of creepy.
Indeed.
But yeah, are there other tracks you want to go into?
Yeah, it's another one I don't want to go track by track with, but I usually could.
Yes.
So
yes, it's so easy. Yeah, it's so easy. They're each one just kind of embodies its own sound and style and atmosphere. It's very well put together.
But yeah, if I were to talk about one, I would go with track number 2, Paradise, Access Denied.
Right.
Which I like the opening the most, I would say. It's like this weird buzzing drone with all these, I don't know, kind of could be field recordings of like chirps and I don't know. I got kind of like imagined like bugs flying and I don't know, buzzing, and
Right.
you hear like kind of
Right.
like wilderness sounds, and you got the static mixed in with that. I
Yes.
just loved how that opened up with all that crazy ambience, and then the kind of sad string instruments come in,
Right. Yes.
and you start to hear like these faint whispers come in just briefly.
Yeah. It's a strange. Like as we're talking about it, I'm trying to like piece together what what concept, if any, is kind of being told here, and like what the track title may be informing you of while you listen to this. Yeah, and I believe that there was, there's like a nice little somber guitar ambient sort of melody in there. And like, just the way the ambient comes through, like the ambient almost, and this is me spouting off a bit on how much I don't know about certain genres of music, but almost like, like the power electronic or kind of like the harshness of it, like a lot of the ambient kind of takes on a specific harshness. It doesn't. It kind of grabs your attention a bit more in a sense relative to maybe some other dark ambient you would traditionally listen to. Like sometimes you can maybe describe certain dark ambient and be like, oh, I can also listen to that in the background, but like this stuff is just harrowing enough that it kind of creeps you out while listening to it, which I like. So, but yeah, Paradise Access Denied is great, and I really liked Excelsior as well, which is the fourth track. You kind of get some of those harsher sounding like cascades of noise with some reverberating ambience, and there's like this little guitar twang that kind of plucks through, and it kind of loops, and it kind of keeps playing at a specific rhythm. And then there's, as you were describing in a way, in one of the earlier tracks, there's kind of like this low humming, like somebody's kind of humming some words, and it seems to kind of transmute into like this spoken word-esque chant, like this weird prolonged chant. It's like a really strange mix in the way it kind of just flows from a hum to some sort of spoken word, and then it turns into this weird chant, like in such a short time frame. And then there's a bit of a guitar melody that comes in later in the track, and the guitar melody always just seems to me like it's played out of tune almost. And not that I know what an in tune, you know what I mean? Like, if it was super obvious, I'd be like, oh yeah, that definitely sounds like shit.
Right.
But like the way the melody feels, it feels like it's just like detuned, or like it's missing.
Yeah, it's just kind of slightly off.
Yeah, and it feels almost like fractured or broken. Like, I don't know what it is, but every time the guitar comes in, there's something always a little suspect about it. It has this creepiness. At least for me, and that again it's such a strange the way it works in with these kind of harsher walls of noise, these harsher ambient swells. I don't know. It somehow comes together in a way that's pretty refreshing, I would say.
Yeah. It definitely is different from what we've been hearing in ambience.
Right.
I dig that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's funny if we go back to the track before, Blood Room.
Yeah,
that really has like this feeling like they took a microphone and just left it in like an obnoxious like server room in like a building or something,
Sure.
Which are always nightmares on film sets. But
right.
Yeah, you just hear like these weird like hums, and it kind of sounds like a refrigerator or air conditioning.
Yeah. You can. Yeah. Go ahead.
And then then you get more into the traditional kind of ambient stuff with their strange, folky, broken strings.
Right.
But and then Evil, track number 6. That one starts off with this kind of cool, like a train, tracking along, and there's like a whistle blowing.
Right.
And it kind of like circles around you from like the left to the right ear,
Yeah, definitely.
And then some guitar comes to the forefront, and then the train kind of distorts into something, another noise, and then you kind of
Right,
got some
right.
vocals coming in.
Yep.
And the song, like, it does have an evil vibe, I would say. like, they,
No, I don't. Yeah, I wouldn't say so, but
yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I
then
enjoyed that
again,
one.
yeah. No, it actually. Oh shoot, I should have done better at this. It looks like for that track they actually have some lyrics.
They do.
On their Bandcamp.
Yeah, I have them
Yeah.
written down. It's like some weird. I mean, I couldn't understand it, of course, while listening, but it's
Right.
while the terrible stupidity grinds and crushes and makes a smoking heap of 1,000 men, poor dead and some are among the rushes, and your joy sacred nature who created them. That's just a portion of it, but
Yeah, no, that's interesting because you're usually or you seem to be better at me than remembering to look up the lyrics, but sometimes they aren't available, and I didn't even think about looking. I was remiss. I thought that they would have just left it out because when they're singing it, I couldn't pick up on a single
yeah,
word.
that's what I thought originally too. But then, like, I was, kind of scrolling past the names of the tracks, and then that little thing popped up of show lyrics or whatever on Bandcamp.
Right.
I'm like, oh,
Right.
cool. You can actually see it.
Yeah, no, that is very interesting. Yeah, and this is a great track, and I think that this is one that features the guitar more powerfully, and I don't think it is as quote unquote like broken sounding or out of tune or off kilter as it is in other tracks. Like this one definitely seems almost like it's a more folk driven track in a sense, and then they kind of morphed and distorted and crushed it into they kind of crushed it with ambience. Yeah, and I really enjoyed that song, and yeah, it's one of those things where the more I think about it and reflect on it, sometimes I'm like, man, how the hell does this even actually work? But it just all comes together in the strangest way.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. We can go into another track if you want, but I think we've gone. We've gone decently into some of the tracks on this one. I guess we could also talk about Harm's Way. I have that one marked down as I really enjoyed that one as well. How there's kind of like this deep swallowing shroud of ambience kind of circling about, and there's this little faint guitar melody that seems to kind of be trying to kind of pierce or poke out from this really large, constantly undulating swell of ambience. And it kind of just gets crushed and lashed and torn and, whipped around by these harsher drones that keep coming in. And then I think partway through near the end of that one, I don't always write down the exact time codes, but there's also this neat moment when it kind of falls apart, pairs back, and it kind of becomes more barren, but it almost feels more menacing simultaneously. Like it feels like it kind of like they kind of strip down a lot of the layers, and it kind of takes on this barren feeling. And I think that I actually said the same about Blood Room when you were describing it as it sounds like they just left it in the server room. Like there was a certain barrenness to that track that kind of unsettled me a bit. You kind of hear those scratches and warbles, and you're like, what the hell is all this crap, or like what's actually going on? But there's something in like the absence of all the noise, kind of like in the silence between, that's a little more unnerving, that kind of comes through.
Yeah, I could see that.
Sweet, and that leaves us with our final album, 5 Wasted Years, from the trio. You correct me on that if I'm wrong. A trio from New Haven, Connecticut, named GRIZZLOR, and they're actually from the same city that the guys from Intercourse are. So, man, we're all just. I mean, I guess with the exception of HAAN and these guys, we've been kind of staying on the East Coast or in like a certain section of the country the last couple episodes.
Definitely. Maybe there's just like a scene there.
Right. Well, what compelled you to pick this? Because I know you picked this one. I've been a little greedy with the albums I've been throwing on our list, but you grabbed this one. What was it about this that got your attention and got your interest?
Well, this one, I was kind of just cruising through like the I forget what section it's even under on Bandcamp, but
Okay.
I guess maybe there is a noise rock section. I don't remember.
Noise rock or sludge, maybe, or something of that sort.
It's one of those two. But anyways,
Okay.
but then I also saw it listed on Intercourse's little list of I don't know, their playlist on Spotify or something.
Oh, okay. I haven't been on Spotify in a couple years, so I didn't even realize
Yeah.
that they had a playlist. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that kind of confirmed my interest. And
Okay.
I jumped to it.
And did you listen to one of the tracks from this EP or something
Yes,
like that?
yes.
Or was it just some
It
random?
was this EP. I just started with the Just Don't Care, but this was also one where I did the write-up on, which I don't know if that will be out before this or not, so we can edit
Probably
what we want.
not. No. It's one of those things where I'm still trying to find time. But yeah, that if people care to read the auditory reflections, we have a new iteration coming up. I just got to get my skull together on a couple things and actually write some words. But anyway.
But yeah, anyways, I had so much fun with that write-up that I was like, I kind of want to go more in depth and talk about these guys.
Right. Yeah, and this is a great little. It seems like it's a good sampler, and I wasn't able to surmise if this was so. This album, this EP, they wrote this 4-song EP. This was back in late 2013, and I believe their first release, at least per Bandcamp, was January 2014. So it seems like these were some of the oldest tracks that they wrote together as a band. I could be wrong.
Maybe the original recordings were so crappy that they just like, let's not release this.
Yeah, they just put an iPhone on the floor and they just go for it and hope.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I've heard albums that sound as bad or worse than that, but this obviously does not sound like that.
No.
But I think that I think that the whole thing behind this EP is they basically said, well, we have these 4 songs. They sounded like shit back in the day, or they did not sound of quality. It's been about I guess it has been about 5 years since then. So they're like, okay, let's just re-record these 4 tracks, and it's aptly and perfectly titled 5 Wasted Years. So
that's pretty
exactly
sad way to look at your little music life, but I feel you. I would probably I feel the same way about everything.
Exactly. Yes. And so these guys are kind of in the vein. They're like a sludgy noise rock trio, I guess you could call them. They're definitely, I mean, even though we have 2 noise rock albums on this episode, I think that they're pretty different from tone overall. Like they definitely have a very distinct sound. But yeah, let's go into some of the tracks. What do you dig track wise? And I don't know. I know you're probably gonna have a couple things to say about the lyrics, which I'm hoping for and excited for if you do.
Well, I would say I enjoyed all 4 songs quite a bit. They all have their coolness to them. But I might as well just jump into the first track. Just Don't Care.
Yes.
And it opens up right away with the kind of, I don't know, noisy, kind of punkish instrumentals.
Right.
And it's pretty upbeat, and they got some nice shifts in there. And then you get to the vocals, and the guy's vocals are just so kind of nasally while he's kind of screaming along. I don't know how to describe it. It's just it's entertaining.
Yeah, I almost find it like there's a bit of cheekiness to it, or they kind of have this. The word that I thought of was almost lackadaisical. Like they kind of have this, I don't know, kind of like this laziness.
Dude, they just don't care.
Them. Yeah, I mean, if you really want to be on the nose, yes, you could say that. But that's one of the things that I like about it, and it kind of has its own charm.
Right.
Like the vocal delivery kind of has a charm because of it, because you know that these guys are singing, but even the lyrics, they're relatively repetitive throughout.
But they are fun.
I mean, at least on this track. Yeah, and they just kind of say, and there's and that's okay because I just ran out of luck, and they're just kind of what, and it's all very, it just seems very laid back, which I appreciate.
And they have these cool parts where there's these kind of lonesome bass lines that kind of stick out to me.
Yes.
And then
and
I'll keep going.
Oh no, I was just gonna say in that track too, I really like they kind of, intersperse some of, at least in that first track, they got some cool like psychedelic-esque stuff, kind of like spaced out guitar. And I think there's a little solo tidbit kind of buried in there, and then it kind of rolls back into like that mid-tempo, that delectably sludgy riffage.
Yeah. But we could actually go more into those lyrics. So you said like part of the lines.
Right.
It's just like,
right. I said one
I
of the
got
lines,
this one idea that stuck in my head. I wish I could just come up with something else instead. But that's okay because I'll just sing it away anyway. And that's okay because I just ran out of luck.
Yep. And it's like you just repeat those 4 lines, and it's just like, that's it.
They have this nice rhythm to them too, so they can easily get stuck in your head. But and then the track kind of ends out with him just kind of screaming, like kind of exaggerated and just like like
right.
It was funny.
Right. Yeah, it's great. It's great. Do you want to go through each track?
Yeah, we might as well. There's only 4 tracks, right?
Right.
But yeah, then track number 2, Head in the Clouds. That's the one where like the little tune would get stuck in my head for hours. It
really?
has like the da 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 da.
Yes.
Like I would just be sitting there doing something totally different, and I'll just be kind of like saying that under my breath, like a little insane person. But
right, yeah, and I like that track too because it kind of takes on a bit of like it has like this nice like minimalistic approach to it as well. Like it doesn't seem like there's a lot of activity in a sense. Like it kind of has that nice, like that earworm kind of riff. Yeah, and then again, the words, like they just kind of have this out of focus or just kind of indifferent tone to them, and I think the lyrics are pretty reflective of that. Just kind of like that, like I said, like that lackadaisical, just kind of like complete uncare for what's going on around them approach, and I think it is pretty well fitting for the title, Head in the Clouds.
Right. Just kind of up there, like but
yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that one also had that kind of like cool spacey guitars. Kind of remind me of like almost like old school like surf rock guitars and little pieces.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because there was even a bit. I mean, later on in the album, the 4th track, I was like, oh, that sounds like it kind of has like a surf rock-esque drum pattern of some sort. So I'm glad that you confirmed. I mean, we could both be deluded, but I'm glad you at least confirmed that by me not saying it first.
Right.
Like at least you had some insight before.
I mean, that either means that one of us is crazy or we're not crazy or very well both a little,
yeah.
little crazy.
People can rip us apart in the comments.
Like, God, these guys never know what they're talking about.
Yep. Exactly. But I would say the 3rd track made me laugh pretty hard, especially
the beginning.
The opening soundbite where it's just like, what the hell does it say exactly? It's like, I hope you rot in hell, cocksucker.
Yeah,
like
it's like a robotic.
It sounds like almost like a
Stephen Hawking voice.
Yeah, right, or like a Microsoft Word, like just like a spelling out of it, and they just splice it together, and like it's just kind of whispered, like, I hope you rot. It's fucking hilarious, and there's this neat little groovy bass line in there. And I guess that is kind of a recurring theme or kind of a recurring bit. You get this nice bass bit, and like there's kind of these psychedelic guitars that are wailing, and they're kind of creating this ambiance while the bass is doing some slick little work, some slick lines. And I really like the headbanging riff that kind of comes in near the end, with the drum beat. It kind of everything locks together and makes this really nice moment. But yeah, and then I would say the 4th track is my favorite track. I don't know what your favorite track is, but I definitely like that one because I love the title, because I feel like it's like, oh, just shoot me in the head. It's like, please,
please,
that's all I'm
please,
asking for.
me too.
Yes.
This is a cry for help.
Yes, right. Yes, and it's this is the track where I was mentioning. I felt like that there was kind of like that, like almost like a surfy drum beat for a second. Like it's kind of like almost like a 2-1 or something where it's like pop, like kind of not in that rhythm specifically, but it kind of has like that double clop of the snare, and it has this and I really this track with they got this nice, really, or like this noisy, scratchy guitar section, and then it kind of dissipates for a moment, and the bass carves through and holds down the tempo and low end groove pretty nicely.
Yeah, and I would say this one's like the most I don't know, like dimensional song. Like I guess there's a lot.
Yeah,
more,
sure.
There's a lot to it. Like they almost take like more aspects from the other previous songs and just up it a little.
Yeah, and it's definitely the longest one. This is 4.5 minutes, and the ones preceding it, the first one's only 3 minutes, and then the two in between, they're 2:40 2 minutes 40 seconds and 2 minutes 18 seconds respectively. So this one definitely packs a lot of punch.
Yeah, and the lyrics are just outstandingly amazing in this one. It's funny. I keep wanting to read the lyrics in like the tune of the second track. I haven't even listened to it in like a while, and yeah, it's still there. But yeah, I don't fucking care about anything anymore. There's no hope, so you might as well just fucking quit. Why don't I just give up on myself right now? Why don't you just shoot me in the fucking head? So deranged the whole time. I'm just kind of giggling.
No, but it brings me so much joy to read those lines.
It makes me feel like I'm not alone,
Right. It's great. No, I love it, man. And this is definitely like what were some of the aspects of this track? I know I kind of spoke a little. I already went a bit in depth, but what about for you? What about this track?
Well, this one I like how it kind of starts off, the fast and noisy instrumentals, and then it kind of gets more like, I don't know, atmospheric and spacey with all the guitars like just wailing out.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, you got just stuff's kind of scratching through, and then there's like another cool bass line, and then I think right after that his yelling kind of gets more like harsh again, and at the very end it gets more like it's kind of slows down. It gets kind of like I don't know, doomy in a way.
Yeah, you get like those longer suspension of notes, like they're kind of held and they kind of reverberate longer. Like they're not like the riff kind of expands. It seems like the riff is just kind of getting more space to breathe for a little bit.
Yeah, and then it just sputters out with some nice feedback.
Right. Yes, and then you get those awesome gobbledygoo vocals. Yep. That's how I described it, when he's just like, just like making mouth noises. He
just goes and goes too. It's
right.
Great.
Right. Like they just completely lost interest. Like they're just like, all right, we recorded these 4 songs, and they're like,
he's like, I don't fucking care about these like vocals anymore.
Right.
Can we please stop?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. But yeah, I really enjoy these guys overall, and I can't say that these tracks are going to be super indicative of how their other albums sound. I wasn't able to listen to their more recent release. They put out an album in September of last year titled Destructoid, so I guess that's almost the year anniversary. So I don't know how much has changed, but
the album cover's weird too. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, you're fine. You're fine, man. Please.
It's like, it's a bunch of, like it looks like the Vietnam War, like just by their attire and like this kind of the way they're dressed. But they're skeletons, and it looks like they're on like a different planet, like Mars or something, or I don't know. You see the moon in the background.
Honestly. Yeah, I like the way it looks, frankly. But I don't know how much they've changed, tonally, like what they sound like. But what I can definitely appreciate about this EP is, there's kind of like a minimalist vibe to some of the stuff. Like it's very just focused on the riffs, and I don't know, it kind of has this grittiness that comes through. It's noisy when it needs to be, and I don't know, I appreciate the brevity of it and the succinctness. But would you recommend folks check these guys out?
Oh yeah, I love it. It kind of also gives me the same feeling I got when I first listened to Intercourse. And
right.
Now I'm kind of just opening myself up into this genre, and it's taking me to cool places. Here we are again. You've been listening to Voices from Corners Unknown, episode 15. I enjoyed all 3 of these albums quite a bit, and I hope you check it out and experience their music.
Yeah, and thank you all for your continued support. We appreciate it. Please feel free to eviscerate us or leave us some constructive criticism surrounding our words, and feel free to always call us out for mispronouncing names if we do. Please
do. I want to actually have somebody tell us that.
Yeah, keep a tally for us, or we just don't have enough time in a day to do that. But yeah, we appreciate you folks listening, and we'll have another episode in a few weeks. And for those listening, we'll have some Celluloid Obscurity episodes coming out relatively soon as well, so you have something to look forward to.